Hey folks, it's Bay Area Angler 510 here. Just want to do a quick video on setting up Brad's cut plugs with the Pro Troll flashers. Okay, these are the Pro Troll 360 11-inch flashers. Um, so hopefully what I'm about to tell you has got some helpful hints. If you've never used these before, a lot of people seem to be kind of resistant about switching to them. I can say I used them last year for the first time and they did great. I was nailing the salmon when other people were saying it was a slow year. That was out on the Sacramento River. So the way I set mine up is I use a spreader bar, okay? Other people use a three-way swivel or a slider weight on their main line with a dropper going down from there. I like the spreader bar. I feel like it prevents any line twist. It lasts forever. I've had this one I think for 3 years now. I've been using it. It's just an easy setup and it works. So from the spreader, you're going to have a dropper going down to your weight. Okay, you can use cannonball weights or I use these Torpedo weights. 8 ounces is what I use when I'm using this setup. It seems to work well. With 8 ounces of weight in this setup, usually the amount of line I put out is double the depth. So if I'm fishing in 20 feet of water, I'm going to use 40 feet of line I'm going to put out. And then from there I'll make little adjustments. But that gives me a pretty close ballpark figure of how much line I need to put out. That being said, line counter reels will probably make your life a lot easier. Okay. Now, when you're doing this setup, when you're setting this up, think about swivels, clips, leaders, where you have things, what things you might want to change out often, and then use your dual lock snaps or whatever snaps you're using and swivels, things like that. Use them in a smart way, folks, so that you don't have to keep changing them around. Okay? So, for instance, on your weights, right? Don't tie it in. Put a snap on there. You might want to switch out your weights. It's much easier to just unsnap that and pop in a new one. Or if you're too cheap, you can go ahead and just make a big eye in there. Okay. I find that the snaps are a little easier than a big eye, and they don't abrade the line as much. Also, this dropper line, okay, you're going to use a lighter pound test. Okay. The goal is if this were to get snagged up, you want it to break. Okay. You're going to lose your weight. You're not going to lose your whole rig. Okay, so I use 15-pound tests for this. Okay, my main line I'm using 50 or 65-pound braid. The rest of the line on this rig that I'm using, I have an 80-pound test bumper and 30-pound is what I use for my cut plugs. Okay, so this you want it to be lighter than the rest. Okay, use your cheap line for this. Okay, from here, the first thing I'm going to put off of my spreader is I'm going to put a bumper on there. Okay, a bumper is nothing more than a piece of heavy mono line. Okay, you can just tie these if you want. I decided to make a few and crimp them because for every time I do this I'm using them, so I just wanted something a little more permanent. I know there's a guy on Amazon that sells these pre-made bumpers in 12, 18, and 24-inch lengths, I believe. I think his name is River Guide Supply. I've never bought them from him, but they look pretty good. So this one here that I have is approximately 15 inches, okay, from the end of this clip to the end of the eye. That will go onto my spreader bar, okay? So like I said, set these up, your snaps, so that you can quickly change things around, okay? Because I'm not going to be changing spreader bars around, I decided to put my snap on that somewhat permanently, and I can easily switch out these bumpers. Reality is those bumpers don't get switched often either, but they do sometimes get a kink, and I want to switch them out. Okay, from here, I put a snap on the end of this bumper because these Pro Troll flashers on the front end do not have any kind of snap. They just have a ball bearing swivel. Okay. The back end does have a big giant dual lock snap, but the front end just the ball bearing swivel. So be smart, put a snap, okay, on your bumper so that you can easily switch out your flashers, okay? Throughout the day, you might decide to swap out and see if one color flasher is working better than the rest. I've noticed certain flashers seem to work better in lower light than others. When the sun comes out, I'll switch flashers. So I put a snap on there so I can quickly and easily change those. Okay. Now, off the end of my flasher is where my cut plug will go into. Okay. I did another video on these cut plugs and how I rigged them. You can watch that if you want. You can look at my videos. At the end of all my cut plugs, I do this ball bearing swivel, or roller swivel, I think they call it. Okay, that goes right on that dual lock. So I can easily switch out my cut plugs, right? Just unsnap it, grab another one. It's set. They're all set up the same. I can just snap it on. Okay. Oops. I can easily switch out my flashers throughout the day of fishing because I put my snap attached to my bumper line. Okay, so I can switch those out. So like I said, when you're setting this up, think about what you might want to switch out and set up your swivels and snaps and such so that you can switch those out quickly and easily. From here, my leader on my braid cut plugs, I make them approximately 3 feet from the end of that swivel to the front of my cut plug, okay? So what we got here is 3 feet of this. We got the Pro Troll flasher, which actually, even though they're 11-inch flashers, from the end of this swivel to the end of this snap is actually 15 inches. From there, I have about another 15 inches for this bumper, and then this is about 5 inches in my spreader bar. So when you add up the total length, it comes to about 5.5 feet in my setup. Now you could probably, if you have a shorter rod, I use a 10.5 foot rod. If you're using a shorter rod, you can probably shorten it up a little bit by, you know, instead making that bumper 15 inches or even 12 inches. Or the cut plug, you can cut it down to, you know, 28 or 30 inches instead of 36, okay? It all really depends on your overall setup. This is the rod I use. It's a 10.5 foot Lambda glass, okay, with Kenai Quick, 15 to 40 pound test. And what does it say? 4 to 12 ounce weight. This thing works great for these cut plugs with the flashers, okay? And then I like the Shimano Dakota reels, great reels. However, I also have on some of my loaner rods different line counter reels, which actually I've used and they work equally as well. So I would highly suggest a line counter reel. As I said earlier, I have 50 to 65 pound braid on mine. Okay, and then at the end of mine, I have a little T, which then goes into a snap. And all of that, where's my spreader here, will snap into my spreader. Okay. And then I have, as I said earlier, my dropper weight comes off of here. Remember to use a lighter pound test. Spreader, or excuse me, bumper, flasher, and then eventually the Brad's cut plug. Which, speaking of those Brad's cut plugs, if you're out on the Sacramento River fishing and you don't have any Brad's cut plugs, you're going to get some, and you're wondering what colors to get. This color here is called blackjack. Okay, it's not too exciting looking compared to the others. It's just black with some silver. The underside, okay, this half here is a glow. This thing killed them last year in 2017. I did great with this thing. This was probably the most consistent producer of all the colors that I tried. However, if it is morning time, I did prefer to use this glow one here. Okay, they make the same one but with black spots. That works equally as well. My buddy was using that one. I was using this one. I can't say that one worked better than the other, but the glow ones definitely seem to work well in the morning. Anyways, that's my setup, and I hope you get out there and get some fish. All right, good luck.